Modern commercial aviation is a tightly woven web of redundancies. Every second of a flight, planes are tracked by GPS, radar, and constant data streams beamed down to control centers. And the aircraft flying these routes are marvels of engineering. The Boeing 777, in particular, had earned a reputation as one of the safest, most reliable passenger jets ever to take to the skies. By early 2014, the global aviation community operated upon the assumption that a passenger jet of this scale simply could not vanish from the grid. On the night of March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 began a scheduled route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, carrying 239 passengers and crew. For the first 40 minutes, the flight was completely unremarkable. It reached its cruising altitude, the weather was clear, and at 1:19 a.m., the cockpit radioed a standard sign-off, "Good night, Malaysian 370." Less than 2 minutes later, as it crossed into Vietnamese airspace, its transponder shut down. Its blip disappeared from civilian radar screens. There was no static-filled distress call. There was no recorded drop in altitude. A nearly 300-ton aircraft was abruptly erased from the most heavily monitored airspace in Southeast Asia. A sudden radar drop usually implies an immediate, catastrophic crash. But days later, investigators reviewing hidden military radar data found something that contradicted that entirely. This map shows the flight's original northern path toward Beijing. Instead of crashing at the edge of Vietnamese airspace, MH370 hooked a sharp, unannounced left turn and flew straight back over the Malaysian landmass. To execute a turn like that requires manual input. Yet, throughout this massive detour, the pilots maintained total radio silence. The data showed an aircraft under control, navigating through waypoints in the dark. This deliberate change in direction ruled out a simple mid-air accident and pointed toward a complex, intentional act. Even though the plane's primary communication systems were dark, a secondary automated system was still running in the background. It was sending out hourly digital pings, known as handshakes, to an Inmarsat satellite above the Indian Ocean. While invisible to radar, the plane's hardware kept reaching upward to a satellite for 7 hours. Analyzing these signals, investigators calculated 2 massive arcs of travel, one stretching north into Central Asia, another curving south into the open ocean. Dozens of nations deployed fleets of ships, aircraft, and underwater drones to scour tens of thousands of square kilometers in the remote southern Indian Ocean. It became the most expensive search operation in aviation history. For over a year, they found nothing. Then, in July 2015, a large piece of an aircraft wing, a flaperon, washed ashore on Reunion Island, thousands of kilometers west of the primary search zone. Investigators examined the serial numbers and manufacturing details. It was a definitive match. The debris proved that the Boeing 777 had in fact met its end in the ocean. This discovery confirmed the flight ended in the water, but the salt-crusted metal remained silent regarding the reason for the diversion or the location of the main hole. Investigators stress-tested every scenario against the timeline. If a catastrophic mechanical failure knocked out the radios and incapacitated the crew, the plane wouldn't have been able to carefully navigate through specific waypoints and fly for another 7 hours. If it was a hijacking, the motive is entirely missing. In the decades since the disappearance, no terrorist group has ever claimed responsibility, and no demands were ever made. That leaves the theory of pilot intervention. The deliberate U-turn and the exact sequence of systems shutting down suggest a high level of cockpit knowledge. Yet, exhaustive background checks into the captain and first officer yielded no conclusive proof of malicious intent. Every logical explanation fails to account for the 7 hours of satellite data. And with no new evidence appearing, the official inquiry eventually stalled. Behind the radar data and the satellite math are 239 passengers and crew members. Their families are trapped in an agonizing limbo. They have no designated crash site to mourn, no recovery of their loved ones, and no knowledge of those final hours. It is an open wound that refuses to heal. Since 2014, the aviation industry has heavily upgraded its tracking technology to ensure this sequence of events can't be repeated. But the main wreckage of Flight MH370 still lies hidden somewhere in the deep ocean. Despite living in an era of constant global surveillance, our world is still vast enough to swallow a massive airliner without a trace. What do you think happened on that flight? Let us know your theories in the comments.